Oh, what is this? Okay. What is... That's the official... Okay. Alrighty, just getting everything set up. Okay. Alrighty, welcome in everybody. Welcome to tonight's stream. It's not a writing stream tonight. I am... Hey Noel Main, welcome in. I know it's a little bit late. I don't know if any of you saw my post about starring in Hero Girl stream. Just finished doing that a few minutes ago. Okay. Hey Nabiru, hello. I don't know if any of you were able to catch me on Hero Girl's stream. I wasn't doing a whole lot. I wasn't talking a whole bunch. I was just focused on the gaming. I'm just coming from a collab. See, the thing is, I thought it was a thing where we were starting at 6 p.m. and we were going to end at like 9 p.m. So I was like, okay, I normally start at 8:30. So I'll start at 9:30. So I'm starting an hour late. It's no big deal. But then like we kept going till like 10 or just short of 10. And I was like, oh, well, now it's super late. So now I'm like coming in super late on my stream. So I was a little bit ruffled. But Hero Girls wanted to do 3 to 4 hours. And I was thinking, I don't know, just about expectations. Let's go to the just chatting screen. Hello. I'm probably going to ask, so Hero Girls wants to make the Raft collab an earlier thing that we do. Not earlier thing. Hero Girls wants to make the Raft collab a thing we do every month, the first Friday of every month. Just playing Raft for, playing through the same thing, the same playthrough, where we're all in the same world and we're all like doing stuff. And I think that's cool. Raft is fun. I think it's one of those things that like, because whenever it's like a survival game, I always feel like mods can make a survival game so much more than it is, right? And we're just starting to pick up steam and get a lot of resources. We haven't gotten any lore. And like, apparently there's supposed to be some hidden deep lore in Raft. But we haven't really seen any of it at all. We weren't able to interact with the shop at any of the islands we've been to. It's just been about survival. And like, I don't know, everybody on the team has a job, and like Francois handles like all of like the research and the construction and like building the stuff up. Lila handles the fighting to fight the because Lila's good at fighting the animals and fighting the we named the shark Melvin. So Lila's good at fighting the shark and the boars and everything else. Hero Girls handles the food, and Jess handles like steering the ship, right? So like my thing is supposed to be like that I'm fishing in all the resources and emptying the catchers and bringing in the resources for the boat, and then like whenever we're at an island or whatever, I fill in and help out whoever needs help. But like the thing is, while we're on the boat, everybody else is like, if they're not doing anything else, they're fishing, and everybody else feels like everybody else is better at not fishing, at hooking in the supplies. Because in Raft, the supplies you get come floating by on the water, and you have to hook them in with your hook. And I'm like, well, everybody just feels like they're better at that. And like whenever I try to help, I try to be aggressive to fight Melvin and do all of that stuff. Like I end up getting myself injured more often than I actually help. So it's kind of frustrating. It's fun, but like everybody has a thing, and then like my thing towards the end of the stream was that I would make fishing rods, and then I would fish for food. So I was fishing for food and keeping us stocked up on food and helping out with the food stuff. So it was just kind of like, I don't know, just doing stuff. But yeah, that's what I've been doing for the last like 4 hours. It's funny. Hero Girls was like, I don't know how you can stream after this, and I was like, I didn't tell him, but I was like, I felt like I didn't really do much, you know. I ate right before we started stream, and like, it just is what it is. I'm not complaining. It's always fun hanging out with the rest of the streaming crew. It's just I'm not super good at Raft. And I don't know. Every time I tried to like make a joke or say something, it was like there was something more important happening, you know? And that's just the nature of a survival game, is there's always going to be something that has to happen to move forward, you know? But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So my day has been hectic. Like, I got up today, right? And oh, also, I want to clarify, like, that whole thing with me kind of decompressing about my feelings about the collab isn't me complaining or saying that, like, I have any negative feelings towards anybody. It was just, hey, LeMay. It was just stuff. But, so I got up early today, and I was originally, so I had to go run an errand. This is kind of a TMI thing, but I get temporary disability. I live on fixed income right now till my whole hearing with my disability stuff comes through. And that's my only income. And like it hit today, and I had to get the money out to pay my rent, to pay my electric, to pay my phone bill, to pay my Wi-Fi, to pay my internet bill, and all these things, right? So like I don't have a car, so I need someone to take me somewhere so I can get the money to do these things. And I talked to someone previously on like Saturday or Sunday. Actually, it might have been Monday. And I was like, hey, I need to do this thing. And that person had said, sure, I can take you probably around 10 a.m. So I set an alarm for myself to make sure I was awake by 9:30. But I woke up early. I woke up around 8 o'clock. And I sent a text. I was like, hey, are we still on? Because I hadn't heard anything from them. And they're like, hey, there was a change of plans. I can't take you at 10. I have some other things that have come up, but I can still take you, but it's going to be later. So then I was like, okay, when can you take me? So that way I know, so I can be awake, I can be alert, I can be ready. And they're like, I will get in touch with you when I get done with this thing that I have to do. And it's going to be, at the earliest, it'll be like 11 o'clock. Might be later. So I laid down for a little bit because it was like, that call happened at like 8:30. Dozed off for a little bit. I woke up like 11:10, 11:20. And I hadn't heard anything from them, and I was like, oh, that sucks. But they said at the earliest 11, so you know that means it's sometime after. And I think, hold on, let me check my phone. Hey, listen, Vincent, it's good to see you. I definitely want you to know, Vincent, you are always welcome here. And you don't have to, like, you don't owe me anything, right? You don't have to feel bad if you can't make it to a stream. I realize that, like, this stuff is fun stuff, right? But, like, IRL stuff comes first. I completely understand that. And like, if you got to do your tests and your school year and your studying and work and life and all that stuff, Vincent, I completely understand, right? It is completely okay. All right. I want you to know that whether you're here or not, I love you and I care about you. I believe in you. And I think that you are an amazing treasure of a person. So don't feel bad at all, Vincent. So, okay. Yeah, I remember you mentioned running a Lancer campaign, Noel, man. So like I woke up, I just checked the timestamps of the stuff, and I woke up at like 11:20, right? And they hadn't called me, but I saw they'd left a text. And my phone just like does a ding whenever I receive a text, but it rings whenever I receive a phone call. And they sent me a text at like 11:08. Right? They were supposed to call me to let me know what the plan was and when they would be here. But they didn't call me, and they just sent me a text at like 11:08 that says, hey, I'm outside your apartment. Hey, I'm here. Take your time. If you can bring me a bottle of water, that'd be great, because I need some water just to drink because it's hot. And so I like got dressed and rushed out, and we went and ran errands. And no problem, Vincent. Have yourself a good night. I hope you get some good rest, and I wish you all the best with your school stuff, all right? So like I ran all these errands, and it's really funny because like I get this certain stipend of money from my temporary disability for each month, right? And that's my only like income for the month. I don't actually like make money from streaming, right? I mean, I receive some donations, I receive some regular donations that help out with things. And those things help out with a lot of things for like kind of incidentals or side projects. But like when it comes to actually like paying my bills, I'm not saying that to downplay the people who donate and do help me, because there are people who do donate and people who donate regularly to help me, and that is noticeable. That does help. It's just like I get the one big thing for paying my bills, and so I had to run all these errands, and like it was after getting this money, I got home and I had to handle all this stuff. And like I got some groceries. So I have some groceries in my fridge. I have groceries in my pantry. My rent is paid. My electric bill is paid. My rent includes my water. And my gas. And my internet bill is paid. And I decided, since I don't know what's going to happen with the disability stuff, and I don't know if I'm going to have money next month, I decided to pay my phone bill a month early. I'm with Mint Mobile. I always recommend Mint Mobile if you're in the US. I think their prices just can't be beat for what you get from them. And I only have to pay every 6 months. I have their cheapest plan. I get it every 6 months. And it was supposed to be due next month. But I was like, I don't know if I'm going to get money next month. I don't know what's going to happen. So I just paid it this month so that way I don't have to worry about it. So after all that stuff was dealt with, that pays for my phone bill for the rest of the year, for the next till like December. So I'm like, okay. Everything's covered, and I look at my bank account, right, after all that, and there's like $37 in my bank account. I'm like, all right, that's what I got for like treating myself. You know, I wanted to buy a Lancer supplement or buy maybe eat out or something, right? And then I remember I have to pay my monthly fee for my bank account, which is like $9, and that doesn't come out till the 16th. So I got less than $30. I'm not saying this to be like poor me, but it's one of those situations where like I'm very close to broke, but my bills are paid. There's a roof over my head. There's food in my fridge. My lights are on. My internet's paid for. My phone bill is paid for. I'm very fortunate. I'm very blessed. There are a lot of people who don't have it as good as I do. And I'm in a really good situation as long as things keep working, you know? And it was just a moment where I felt like, okay, this is okay, you know? So anyway, let's get down to it. We're starting late. Gotta chug right through it. I have been cooking on something. So there is this Lancer supplement that I want to buy. It's like $5, but I just haven't had the spare $5 for like the last 3 months. I just haven't had the money for it, right? To be able to justify spending on Lancer when it should be. I can justify eating out and spending on food before I can justify spending money on game stuff, right? Because food is the priority for me. And so I've looked at this Lancer supplement that I've wanted to buy, and the Lancer supplement says it has rules for players to pilot NPC mechs, and that it has rules for players to hijack NPC mechs on the battlefield. And it has all these pilot options. It has all these types of different Lancer NPCs. This stuff for generating new types of missions. Random tables for getting ideas for specific objectives and things to like kick off your creativity and make stuff go. And it's like, it was all this stuff, and I've been really excited about getting it, right? Because I love Lancer NPCs. It's not that like I don't super jive with all the stuff with Lancer players. Like, all of the Lancer player stuff is just, it's so in the minutia. It's, when I say that, it's like it's so specific and tactical, and it's this bonus stacked with that bonus stacked with this effect and this specific situation and this thing, and like the balancing act for making Lancer player stuff is this heavy balancing act, right? And everything, whenever you make any Lancer homebrew for players, you always have to consider this whole library of not just the mechs, the weapons, and the systems, but also all of the talents and the interactions with those talents. And like, when I play Lancer, right? Because I am playing in a game of Lancer, right? My Lancer game, I'm playing a Drake pilot that is built for sloped plating and Leviathan heavy assault cannon. My build is designed to take a bunch of damage and deal a bunch of damage. I have Leviathan heavy assault cannon, one of the highest damaging ranged weapons in the game, equipped with Paracausal mod, so the damage from my mech, from that gun, cannot be reduced in any way, shape, or form. And my mech is literally a semi-mobile turret. I have it because I have the Drake because it has good stats and it has a lot of armor. So with slope plating, I can get to the max armor of 4 armor. I don't use my core power. I think I've used my core power maybe once over the course of the campaign. I barely use my talents. And my core bonuses are just really simple things that I have to like make my mech do more damage. Like, I use primarily the GMS core powers for because I have the stabilizing hardpoint and overpowered caliber on my my Leviathan heavy assault cannon, so I have an accuracy on the hit and I do an extra d6 of damage. And that's all I do, and I'm perfectly okay with that as a player, right? It's simple, it's easy. My turn consists of finding a target to point my gun at and shooting it really hard. Maybe I'll lock onto something if I can't get there. I have other side weapons and utility that I can do if I can't shoot something. So I have these other things that are built in that I can do, but the main thing for me that like is fun in Lancer is putting up obscene numbers of damage that I almost said my opponent, that the GM can't do anything to reduce. Like, that is what I enjoy doing in Lancer. And I'm willing to bet I'm not the only player who interacts with that. Because in Lancer, as a player, you have so many different options for customization. And all of the different things combine to give you this just super specific build, right? So with how all of that stuff works together and interacts and all the flavor, it just can be a little bit overwhelming for me. And when it comes to making NPCs, it is so much simpler. You pick the class of the NPC, you pick features from that class. If you want, you give them a template to make them stronger, and then your template gives you new options you can add in order to modify the class. So you just have a class, and then you have features. And there's a set number of how many features you should have on an NPC mech in order to keep it balanced. And some things will tell you how many features to add. But that's neither here nor there. So that got me thinking, like, as much as I love Lancer NPCs and what they represent, right? Because in the lore, right, Lancer isn't like an official title. It's a word used to describe pilots who are better than the rest, exceptional, special, with unique talents and capabilities, and able to do things that other pilots can only dream of doing, right? And the whole thing is that each pilot has their licenses, which gives them the license to print whatever parts are awarded to them by that license, right? And then pilots get stronger as they gain more licenses. And one of the weird things that was like a mechanical thing of Lancer that has some interesting lore implications is that the licenses are specific to the pilot. And printing out a player mech is like a paracausal event. So there is this mechanic that as a Lancer, if you print out a second mech to replace the one that you already, well, if you print out a second mech, right, your first mech falls to pieces. Your licenses cannot be used for two separate mechs. So as soon as you print out a second mech, the first mech just falls to like almost indistinguishable pieces. So that got me thinking, right? Because that means that there are pilots that have these special licenses that only they can use, that give them the right to print out enough pieces for one mech. So then you look at the NPCs, right? And like these NPCs, how I imagine it, right? These NPCs don't have a license for these NPCs because there's so many different mechs and they're so much weaker than the player mechs, right? And there's so many of them. In my head canon, right? I'm like, these guys can't all have licenses to print the NPC mechs. And that doesn't like make my capitalism riddled brain like rumble, right? So I realized that like in my headcanon, it's a thing where there's the single person licenses, and then there is the like retailer license. The single person license is what the players get that lets them print out a mech for themselves, and it can only be used for one mech at a time, right? And in my headcanon, the retailers, the arms dealers, the stores have licenses to print other, weaker, simpler parts that aren't nearly as paracausal. And can be used to print off tons of parts that they can sell and distribute as they see fit. So whenever you buy a part from an arms dealer, you're not just paying for the supplies, but you're helping them recoup what they paid for the license to print those parts. So that got me thinking about a Lancer that is using NPC stuff where they have to track down their parts. They have to salvage their parts. They have to scavenge their parts. Yeah, so they have to get parts where they can and customize the machine. And it also helped that, like, for my Sunday game, I designed these veteran elite NPCs. Those are 2 templates that I stacked to be very unique feeling pseudo Lancer NPCs. And I termed them for the players as, this is an NPC Lancer party that you are going to be squaring off against. And I told the players that I was designing them to be rivals. To be rivals that the players have to tangle with multiple times moving forward. To be characters that have like their own characterization and that come back repeatedly. And so that got me thinking about NPC characters are you know, if I made these as player characters, what they would look like, right? So that got me thinking. Got a lot of brain juices flowing. And then I had one thing that I'd originally designed as a kind of a reject idea, or as an idea for a second NPC as like a possible offshoot, as an extra NPC to add to the enemies. And I was like, I don't want to keep adding enemy Lancers because I don't want to like oversaturate the player's experiences, right? So I ended up like leveling that one down and using it because I'm running 2 games. I'm running one every other Tuesday and I'm running one on Sundays. So I took one of my ideas from the Sunday game, retooled it slightly, and moved it to my Tuesday game as an ally NPC that the players interacted with. And let the players interact with him as an ally. But then I was just thinking, and that got me thinking, and so I knew there was this Lancer supplement that I had been eyeing for like 3 months, 2-3 months, about, I want to buy this Lancer supplement. And this Lancer supplement said it had rules for players to use NPC mechs. So I was ecstatic because it was ticking all these boxes in my brain. And I had this whole imagining, right, about like, because the thing says rules for players to use NPC mechs and for players to hijack NPC mechs in the battlefield. So I thought that was 2 different things. I thought it was going to be rules for players to use NPC mechs instead of player mechs, and rules for players to steal enemy mechs on the battlefield. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so hype. I'm going to take these and use these for other rules for my own game, right? And one of my friends was like, maybe you should post on there and ask the creator if that's what it is, right? I can't remember if somebody said that or if I had that idea. I don't know where that idea came from. about being like, maybe you should make sure this is what you're imagining it to be before you let yourself get your hopes up and get super excited about this thing and then buy it and find out it's not what you're looking for. So I posted a comment on the itch.io page. I was like, hey, this might be exactly what I'm looking for. Does this have rules for players to use NPC mechs instead of licenses, instead of player mechs? Your players are currently at license level 0 as a GM. What would I recommend for early game? NPCs, combat, really any device? Okay. So, are you in the pilot, the pilot.net Discord official/unofficial Discord for Lancer? Because there is a lot of resources there for GMs. There's actually something, I don't know where the original one is. I have a copy saved. Someone made, sorry, I had to stretch for a second. Someone made a, whatchamacallit, it's kind of a calculator for determining how many NPCs you need based on your player party, and it uses the math given in the player's handbook, in the core rulebook, for like this many NPCs for this type of character. It's very simple, and it gives you a general idea, but it doesn't nail down all the specifics, right? My suggestion to a GM that is starting your players at license level 0, make sure you be careful how many enemies you put in, but also the players can take quite a beating. They have force structure. One mistake I made that kind of, so when I was getting started with Lancer, I was trying to run it like D&D, and I was running literally D&D maps that I had used, that I was using for, that I had scaled up for Lancer, right? I started my Sunday Lancer campaign by translating a D&D adventure module, the first adventure module for D&D 5e, The Lost Mine of Phandelver, into Lancer. And I did all this prep work to create the world, to create the characters, to create the setting. And but the combats were D&D style combats where you just kind of went in and you fought things. And very quickly what happened was one of two things would happen. Either A, which happened more often, the players would not be challenged, not be threatened, and kind of curb stomp most of the threats I threw their way. Where they would overwhelm them and it wouldn't be a very difficult situation. Or B, I would overtune it and the players would be getting overwhelmed, and I would have to do some kind of narrative shenaniganry to dial back the power output of some of the enemies because they were wrecking the players. Now, the beauty of the sit reps in the core rulebook and having objectives, more objectives than just a deathmatch, destroy all of these enemies, is that you give the players an objective to complete that does not require them to destroy the enemies. The enemies are an obstacle, but the players are not required to wipe the enemies off the map. So use sit reps to create situations and to give your players, use sit reps that make sense, that give your players objectives that are more detailed than just kill all the monsters, right? And because I had kill all the monsters or kill this a certain monster as the primary types of missions my players were going on early on, that got me in the mindset of designing encounters around making powerful bosses for the players to have to destroy and defeat. Well, Lancer doesn't super work well in those kind of situations unless you have a multi-scene mission where the characters are gonna burn through their structure and their repairs and their limited use abilities and burn through all of that really quickly. Well, not really quickly, but over time. But just like in D&D 5e, trying to run a 5 encounter day is really exhausting in Lancer. Just running those kinds of games. One other suggestion I have, Noel Main. I know it's really tempting to want to... Oh, Pilot Discord. Pilot.net. Hold on, let me see if I can find a link to their Discord. Give me a second. They have a lot of resources in their stuff for GMs. Let me get here. That was not the button I wanted. That was not the button I wanted. Here we go. Boop, 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 boop. That's the link. I just sent you a link on YouTube's. That is a link to the pilot.net Discord server. It's a public Discord. It's not like private or anything. If you have questions, if you have stuff you want to ask, there's lots of stuff you can ask and get information. In the GM corner, there's a lot of resources. And if you look in the pinned stuff on like the GM corner, there's lots of indexes for like sources for GMs and a lot of great resources. It's okay. So as far as I know, right? The pilot.net Discord server is like an unofficial Lancer server, but like there's so much official stuff that's shared there that I think it has become the official like Discord server for Lancer. So it's kind of like the officially unofficial server for a lot of stuff. For like Lancer, Battle Group, I think Icon. I always get Icon and Beacon mixed up, even though they're made by completely different groups and they are completely different types of games. But for whatever reason, I don't know if it's the art style or what. I always get these two games, Icon and Beacon, mixed up. It's like fantasy stuff. It's different. Anyway. But yeah, if you look around on there, there's a lot of resources you can find on there, Noel Main. That can be very helpful for new GMs, for answering questions. But yeah, my suggestion is use sit reps that make sense narratively. And in the rules, right? Players can only change licenses when they level up. When they gain a new license, they can change, I think it's like one of their other licenses, and change like one of their talents and whatever. So like on paper, that's how that's supposed to work, where they can change some limited things whenever they level up. What I and a lot of other GMs do is whenever someone levels up, I just let them completely overhaul their entire build. If they want to go in a completely new direction, change all their licenses, core power, all that stuff over, I let them do it when they level up. In my Sunday game, I let them do it. I generally let them do it anytime they have a long rest, because that's more of a long form game. But yeah. Don't be afraid to make missions that have multiple parts and multiple different scenes, because that makes using the core power an actual choice. Because a core power you normally don't get back until you finish the mission. So if you have a short rest, or what they call a rest, which happens between scenes, you won't get the core power back. So if you have a multi-stage mission with multiple parts and multiple combats, even if it's just two combats, that the players can't get a full repair in, it can go a long way towards challenging your players and pushing them to really think hard about their build. But yeah, I was about to say something and then I got distracted. As a GM, I think there is this kind of urge to surprise your players, to put something in there that makes your players go, whoa, and to kind of feed off of that reaction to inspire the players to think and to react as in character in the moment to some sudden plot twist or unexpected happening that you've planned for the combat, or to leave. Yeah. And there's this kind of desire to like leave some details to only reveal at the last moment. One of the things I have found that has increased the fun for my players and for me, and has made things move so much smoother, has been being open with my players about the mission, about the objectives, and the kinds of enemies that they can be expecting to face. I will often have some NPC acting as an informant or information broker for the players that gives them intel on their next mission, whatever their next mission's going to be. And then I'll usually have I'll usually end a session with the players getting that intel. And I let the players discuss in the Discord channel or whatever and strategize. I'll usually show them the map, give them an idea of what enemies are going to be on board at the beginning of the fight, and what the stakes are, and just I'm very clear with what the stakes are, what the situation is, what the objective is, and all of that. And then I let them strategize. I let them strategize. And design their builds and prep their stuff so that way when they go in prepared, they go in forewarned and with armed with that foreknowledge, and it is super rewarding for the players if they get to see their strategies come to fruition. Like, it can be tempting if you see their strategies to do a thing where you crush their strategies or undermine their strategies, but don't be afraid to let their strategies succeed. Because that's super rewarding for your players if they take this time and put this time and thought into coming up with a detailed plan, and then they get to see it come together. Mecha spider mobs is something I was actually tinkering with having regular giant spiders, not even mecha spiders, Nabiru. Anyway, let me get to so yeah, that's my new player advice. That would be funny, Nabiru. That's what you had to deal with recently? Oh, goodness. All right, so let's get to it. Let me show you what I've been cooking on. I call it the NPC player homebrew supplement. Cool. I'm glad I can help you, Noel, man. I know I'm probably going to be looking to put together a game coming up here soon to help playtest this supplement this homebrew stuff I'm working on. I wanna run some test combats with it, and let players test whatever builds they can come up with, and then after getting a feel for it at different levels of player difficulty, I want to see if I can convince someone to run a campaign and let me play a character using this homebrew after I've nailed down a few things, so I can experience what it's like as a player and see how someone else would interpret the rules to get ideas for fine-tuning this. Let's get to it. Okay. So, these rules that I have been working on, now, just to clarify, these are rules I came up with because basically, I started telling the story and I got distracted. I decided when I saw that supplement that was about players using NPC mechs, I decided to leave a comment and I was like, hey, this might be exactly what I'm looking for. Does this have rules for players to use NPC mechs instead of licenses? Does this have rules, or is this just rules for hijacking an NPC mech in the field? And the developer of that homebrew supplement responded and said, this is only rules for players to hijack and take NPC mechs in the field. If you wanted to have players use NPC features, you could homebrew them as custom systems and weapons that would be exotic gear like what the NPCs are using. But they're balanced very differently. And I'm like, okay. That's kind of the generic answer I got whenever I talked to anybody, but my idea was NPCs and player stuff is balanced very differently. It doesn't mesh. Giving players NPC powers just doesn't mesh. So this was something I came up with. because I even said to that person, I was like, okay, cool, thank you for responding. It looks like I'm gonna have to write my own supplement. And this stuff that I've been working on is for a player to be not a super talented, top of the line, best of the best, super talented player lancer that has talents, that has these top grade licenses, that has some form of augmentation that makes them better at their job, and is a master of all forms of combat and capability. This is for playing a regular Joe. This is for people who like the themes and ideas of having characters that use mass-produced mechs. So the idea here is that your player character, also this supplement, I will just qualify, this entire project throws some of Lancer's core assumptions out the window. It just takes certain core assumptions, features, and pieces of the Lancer expected player experience and just chucks them out the window. Which probably, like, it's a super specific thing, and you have to really want to, like, you have to want to use this. Basically, you don't have, now this is something that each GM can interpret on their own. The player does not have a license to print off infinite numbers of whatever stuff that they have. They have a finite amount of resources that they have to allocate very specifically. And they have a lot of restrictions on what they can and can't do, and they and there has to be a lot more. So normally with Lancer, right, as long as the GM will say what supplements are allowed, and normally within those supplements, the player can make whatever they want for their player mech and completely bamboozle and surprise the GM. They can make whatever they want. There's very little GM interaction with character creation in Lancer, right? As long as you have players that know what they're doing. Hello, hero girls. I am sharing a yes, I am sharing a Lancer homebrew supplement that I have been kicking around for these last few days. And I haven't actually gotten into it because I got distracted. I got distracted, hero girls. So, in Lancer, there are the rules for players, and then there are the rules for NPCs. NPCs build their characters from a much more limited pool of features. What could I be distracted by? Everything. I started talking about I started talking about the collab, then I started talking about my day. And then I started talking about this, but then somebody had a question about like running Lancer, and then I started talking about like some tips to have for new GMs for Lancer, and then some stuff you'll find on the Lancer Discord, and a bunch of other stuff that like sharing some anecdotes and experiences I had from when I first started running Lancer. And then like I got to talking about this, and I was explaining about some of the things with what inspired the creation of this. Well, I don't know if it's created yet. What inspired this entire weird idea. So basically, by a player choosing to use this supplement, first off, the GM has to be involved in character creation. So that is a specific thing. The GM needs to be involved and be aware of stuff for character creation. And using this supplement. And this supplement, the player does not get license levels, does not gain license levels, does not get the licenses, does not get talents, because they are a regular Joe. They are an average dude. They are a regular person who is trying to keep up with these outstanding and talented people. And I've tried to balance this so that way it can kind of keep up with the regular player characters. It's just a different set of choices that you choose from. And ideally this would be where one, maybe two players in a party would be using these rules for character creation, and the rest of the party would be using... That was not the button I wanted. My screen is doing something really weird. Hold on. 1 second. Okay. Okay, there we go. So I have the night light turned on my screen where it keeps the colors warmer, so it's easier on my eyes. But I tried turning that setting up to make it easier on my eyes, and my screen was doing something really weird with the shading. It was really bizarre. Anyway, so this simplifies character creation in a lot of ways, but it makes it more complicated in others. On character creation, right? The player picks one NPC class, and that is their base frame. They get all of the features of that base frame, and they have 2 optional features for free from that class, from their starting class. But unlike normal, where normally NPCs have 1 structure and 1 stress, the NPC player has 4 structure and 4 stress. That's the same structure and stress as a regular player, right? So that instantly makes them more powerful than your average NPC, but it like kind of levels the playing field a little bit. They have no talents, so they completely ignore talents, which this also comes from some of my own bias, because I kind of dislike the entire talent system because it adds so much extreme complexity to character creation that I just get completely overwhelmed by it. Like, I completely ignore and don't interact with the entire talent system whenever, well, like I maybe interact with one of my like 9 talents with whenever I play. Player gains narrative triggers as normal. They can select pilot gear as normal. So on character creation, hold on, let me cut this. I also have to organize these ideas. Okay. So, start of the game, pick the class, 4 structure, no talents, narrative triggers the number, select pilot gears as normal, and the NPC player has no repairs. So what this means is the NPC player can only repair during a full repair. They cannot repair during a rest, so they essentially get no short rests. And, well, they can clear conditions, but they can't repair any of their structure or stress. Now, this is balanced out by the fact that the NPCs normally have more health per structure than players do. So I feel like this kind of balances out, right? And then, as for actual playing, we say the NPC player can overcharge. Normally, whenever a player overcharges, it's a scaling thing where the amount of heat they gain goes up and up and up and up and up and up and up. This simplifies that and says they can overcharge, but whenever they overcharge, it is always 1d6 heat. Their fragment signal works like a NPC's does, which is that it uses the system attack it uses the system stat for the tech attack instead of grit or anything like that. And it only gives the impaired status and +2 heat. So it doesn't give slowed. NPC player cannot take the same quick tech action multiple times the same full tech action. Normally, players can take the same quick tech action twice in the same full tech action. NPC players cannot. When an NPC player stabilizes, it clears heat, clears exposed, clears conditions, and reloads weapons. It does not repair health. Can only repair during a full repair unless they've gained a reserve that lets them repair during a rest. That's another thing I want to introduce, is that the player can, if they put the time and effort in, gain a reserve. So it's still going to interact with reserves, but going to gain a reserve that will let them repair their mech during a rest, or getting essentially one repair that they can spend one time. NPC player does flat damage, doesn't do anything on crits unless they have a feature that lets them do something. Now, this is another change. I let the NPC player brace. Normally, NPCs can't brace. Bracing is a reaction you can do once per round. In reaction to taking damage, you gain resistance to that damage, and you have resistance to all damage until the next time it's your turn, and all attacks at you are made with +1 difficulty. But I said they can brace as normal. They can attempt to grapple, ram, and improvised attack with a roll of doing +1, +2, +3 based on their tier. Improvised attack does 3, 4, or 6 kinetic damage. So that's like all of the specific stuff for gameplay. Then we get into this whole thing with leveling up, because that's a key part. And this is where I think this idea starts to come together. After a successful mission, when a normal player would gain a license level, the NPC player instead gains a BFL, or bonus feature level. Whenever a player gains a BFL, they gain ownership of 2 NPC class features, When referring to license level, use BFL instead. Grit is equal to 1/2 players BFL and is only used for pilot combat. I had to give them grit for pilot combat. I debated making them use the human NPC template for being outside of mech, but I was like, that's too much. That's going to be too much. Let's just do pilot gear as normal so it can interact with it. And so this is what they gain. So normally, whenever you gain a license level, every license as a player comes with 2 things. They could be weapons, they could be systems, whatever they are. They're normally weapons or systems, but you gain 2 of them. So for that, you gain ownership of 2 NPC class features, but they have to be chosen from a class. Let me put this. Hold on. So, when they gain a BFL, they gain ownership of 2 NPC class features from any NPC class. But they can't instantly equip both of them. All NPC player frames are allowed to, at most, they have their base features, and then they can have 2 plus BFL additional features. So the player can only equip features that they own. So what this means is every level up, the player gains 2 new features, but they can only equip one of them without removing something. So there's the choice. That gives them some customization, that gives them some utility. And it gives them a variety of things, right? So I'm thinking you still retain some of that customization, but it's a bit more streamlined. And then whenever they gain a BFL, they gain +2 to a narrative trigger as normal. Then that also brings up, what about core bonuses? Because players get power spikes at license levels 3, 6, 9, and 12, where they gain a new powerful feature that makes their mechs more powerful. So, to imitate that, we say BFL 3, 6, and 9, it works differently than normal. You only gain 1 new feature, and that is chosen from an NPC template. Now, NPC templates are stronger than class features. NPC template features usually modify something about it usually modifies something about how the class moves or how it interacts, and can be some kind of a modification that are usually extremely powerful, but you only get 1 at 3, 6, 9, and 12. So you'll get a total of 4 over the life of the character. And in addition to that, you gain a new base frame from a different class that comes with all of its base features and 2 free optional features up from that class. So you gain, and so since they're not tied to only having 1 mech, they will gain multiple mechs, and they will have a stable of different mechs that they can switch parts on and off of. So you get the mech plus 2 free features from that class. And I go into this a little bit later in here, but you can swap during a full repair, you can swap features from one mech to another, or from your storage to a mech. But the thing is, a mech cannot deploy unless it has at least all of its base features. So if you take, you can't, so that means you can't say, I don't like this feature and try to deploy without some kind of a feature, because some of the base features for the different NPC mechs act as balancing factors. So you can't deploy without those. And NPCs have tiers in Lancer, which is usually based on the player's levels, and then most of their stats and abilities will go up based on the tier. For this, we base it on the BFL. 0 to 4 is tier 1, 5 to 8 is tier 2, 9 to 12 is tier 3. During a downtime, the player can use an appropriate downtime action to gain ownership of a new feature from an NPC class, or even an entirely new NPC frame from a different class with GM permission. So this is like the and I go into this a little bit further. They become spare frames, but they can't gain more things. They still have the same limitation of the number of features. It's still 2 plus BFL additional features. And it has to be normally the result of like some kind of a thing, a narrative thing happening, like you made a deal, you bought something from someone, you used power at a cost, you did something to gain ownership of it. And one of the caveats of this is that it turns the game into more of a looter shooter, because normally with Lancer, you aren't looting the enemy mechs for anything. NPC mechs don't have anything that's really on par with what the Lancer mechs have. So like you just don't loot their stuff. But for this, you are gaining new stuff. You are putting extra time into finding extra resources, right? Again, we say player can only swap equip features. I'll say change during a full repair. Now this is where then we had to introduce some balancing factors, because player mechs have weapon mounts, and that limits how many weapons they can be equipped with, which limits their versatility and their decision making. Player mechs don't have that limitation, so in order to bring this in line, because player mechs very rarely have more than 1, maybe 2 weapon features. And that's a lot of how they're balanced. So for this, we say that the player mech, that the NPC player can have no more than 3 weapon NPC features equipped at once, and only one of those can be a heavy or super heavy weapon. Now this does mean that a player could theoretically equip a super heavy and 2 main weapons. That is a thing that theoretically could happen, right? Well, I think that's kind of okay, because NPCs don't have a very good selection of powerful super heavy weapons. Like you've got an ordnance. Most of the NPC super heavy weapons are like ordnance or inaccurate, or a whole bunch of stuff for the super heavy weapons. So I think your mileage may vary. You may want to introduce mount bracing, where if they have a super heavy weapon, that means they can only equip 1 other weapon. That's going to take some testing to see if it gets broken. I'll put a note here. Okay. I was a main or ox. So I'll put that there. Now this is where we get into some of the specifics here of a player can have multiple of the same feature but must work out with the GM how they interact with each other. I'll put this here. So this will be the thing that the player needs to they're treated. This is where we kind of like break some of the core expectations of Lancer. The core expectation of Lancer is that scarcity is not a thing. And that you can you can print off infinite amounts of whatever you need. Which could just be my simple capitalism riddled brain, but I have trouble dealing with that in gameplay mechanics, and in balancing and in storytelling, because if people can print off, like if there's essentially no capitalism, and if it's all space communism, and if everyone's existing in this post scarcity existence, then like, why are there giant megacorpos warring for resources? Which that just could be some limitations I see in myself and in my own storytelling. I don't think that's a dig against Lancer. I think that's more of just a dig against my own limited ability as a storyteller. But yeah, so this introduces some level of scarcity. You have enough for one instance of that feature. Hold on. One thing here. Give me 1 second. I just saw something out that was. Boo, 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 boo. Covering fire, gaining, got your back. Okay. Okay. Let me just see this. Advanced kit or ultra system and kit and traits. I didn't nip this in the bud real early to say that you can't just choose one feature that gives you 3 other features. Because that would just be busted. This is where we get into this. So this is where we get into some of the more important stuff, that the GM can restrict what NPC features are available and choose what fits their game, what makes sense. Also, NPC features can be customized or tweaked as needed or wanted. And then the whole thing about needing to have all of their base features in order to deploy. Now this is where we get into some of the more like different stuff where it starts to change some of the core things about how the game works. Players can scavenge features off of downed enemy mechs, but the GM gets to say what features are recoverable. Generally, features can only be scavenged off an intact wreck. If a wreck takes any damage, it becomes completely ruined, and generally nothing can be recovered from it at that point. It's assumed that a player does what they need to do to replace any damaged or destroyed systems or mechs during a full repair, but the GM can add additional costs. In lore, the NPC pilot doesn't have a license to print any of their stuff, so they have to get replacements, and they have one of each feature they own. If a pilot's mech is destroyed in combat, the GM may say that some features are lost or will take time to replace. GM may require 1 or more downtime actions to replace all destroyed features. This is where I had to put a safety net in and say, as a general rule, the GM should be somewhat lenient with letting the player replace destroyed features or mechs if the alternative is the player being unable to participate in missions due to not having a mech. For balance purposes, some features cannot be equipped alongside other features. One example is the Avengers Assault Armor that gives resistance to all damage from within range 3, and the feature Siege Armor from the Goliath and other sources that gives resistance to all damage further than range 3. This would give resistance to all damage with effectively no cost. GM gets final say on what combinations are allowed or not. The GM may also tweak certain features to keep them from being too powerful when combined. For example, if the player wanted Siege Armor and Assault Armor, the GM could rule that instead of giving resistance, one of those might impose difficulty on attacks within that range, attacking them instead. Work with your GM to come to an amicable solution. So that is where it kind of tapers off a little bit, right? The rest of this is kind of experimental stuff where I said the GM can introduce a reserve that lets an NPC player change to a spare frame they have previously prepared during a rest, something to do with having supplies flown to them. Still experimental. Let me put something here. Okay. And then this is where things get kind of a little bit wonky. This is another experimental thing. NPC features and player features are very different, though with some time and effort, an NPC feature can be converted into a piece of exotic gear that can be used by a player, and a player weapon or system can be converted into an NPC weapon or system for an NPC player. Work with your GM to figure out what this takes and what abilities the new feature will have. So yeah, that is my Homebrew Lancer supplement. The rest of this stuff is experimental lore and mana costs and ideas for like what the implications of the lower tier pilots and what that means. So normally NPCs are simpler with far less features than a player, but this kind of gets compensated in later levels by giving NPCs additional turns. So it's like there's multiple of them on the field. Without having to, and because they have extra structure and all of that jazz, that just makes them more powerful on the field. And I think that that's really cool. That this, I hope, will mimic player level power output without all of the complexity of all of the different parts of a player mech, and without having to kind of break the game by taking extra turns. I've talked to some people about it. One of the people I talked about it said it might be easier to just have an entire party that's playing as NPCs, start them as regular NPCs, have them gain additional features as they level up, and then eventually gain templates like elite or ultra or exotic at certain key points. And just scale all the fights differently, so that way the players are facing opponents that won't burn through their one structure really quickly. But like trying to balance for that can be very difficult. You have it to try to make enemies that aren't going to like do enough damage to structure an NPC can be very difficult. And that, while I do value the input that person gave me, it was one thing where like that requires the entire party to be in agreement that they all want to play as NPCs. I'm hoping that when this is done, if it's balanced properly, it will be a thing where one player can play as an NPC, and the other players can play as normal Lancers, and that can lead to some very interesting character interactions. So that's what I'm hoping for. It could go a lot of different ways. Maybe I test it and it's completely broken. But I want to test it. I want to see it. And when I tried asking, before I did all of this, right, I asked on the pilot.net Discord server, I was like, in the homebrew section, I was like, hey, Has anyone ever made a supplement to let players play using NPC features instead of licenses? And one thing that does bug me sometimes about the Lancer Discord server is that, like, sometimes they get really, like, not defensive, but I guess unhelpful in some of the help and some of in on specific topics. So, like, I asked that question, and the resounding response I got was, "No, that's bad. Don't do that." Players and NPC stuff is balanced completely differently. There's no set thing for customizing properly, and trying to balance it would be very difficult, and all this, that, and the other. And I was like, I feel like it could be done. And I feel like if done properly, if implemented properly, it could be simpler and easier to manage and to handle than regular Lancer stuff. You don't have to worry about rolling low on damage because you do flat damage. And you don't have to worry about an entire library of talents to pick through. I know for most people, a lot of those things that bug me about Lancer as a player are a feature, not a bug. But, like, it just is what it is. So yes, to be fair, and to be completely straightforward and honest, I made this Lancer supplement. I did all of this. I still haven't bought that Lancer supplement that I was thinking about buying with all the NPC rules. So I don't even know what rules that person came up with. For their rules could be similar to what I came up with, but I don't know what rules they had for players piloting NPC max. I don't know what the specifics or the rules they had. They said they came up with things about, like, piloting NPC max and what you do with the NPC max after combat and all this, that, and the third. So I don't know what their stuff is because, like I said, I've got less than $30 to my name for the month. So I don't really think I can afford to spend $5 on a Lancer supplement. But I want to dress this up a little bit because, like, I can't just share a text document with people and be like, read my stuff. I have to organize it. I have to put it together in a way that's easier to read and make it look nice. And I have to convince someone to help me test this out. I have to find, well, one, I have to find the time, and two, I have to convince someone to try doing this for multiple combats, or even at least one combat, to make a character using NPC features. And there's not an easy way to do it. Like in Foundry, you can just drag NPC features over, but, like, you can't do that in CompCon, which is kind of annoying. I really wish in CompCon there was a way to add features from other classes to an NPC. I really wish there was a way to do that. You could technically just change the name and description of any feature in CompCon to just copy and paste over the feature, but it's a lot more work. But yeah, what do you think, chat? I know I've been talking for a bunch. This is what I've been cooking. a way to completely redo Lancer interactions. I realize that, like, I could say something like you gain a special license for those parts, and then that removes the need to like scavenge stuff, so then you can print them. It's just your stuff is cheaper and lower quality. And then just introduce a rule that you can't use duplicate systems. You can't use duplicate features. You can't stack features, which kind of like makes stuff like Deadly not work. But it does simplify the lore implications. That just means that you have different licenses. But I don't know. It essentially, I like this system where it makes everything essentially exotic gear. Now, will I like it if I'm playing it and my mech goes down and the enemy does the equivalent of a D&D boss double tapping a downed enemy to make sure they are dead? And someone destroys my wreck, meaning I lose all the features I had equipped on that mech. Will I still like it then? If I lose all of the power that I had equipped on that mech? Probably not. I probably won't like it. But like, that's the cost. You gain all these features, but you can lose them too. And it means going down in combat is a lot more expensive. It creates a situation where getting defeated, going down, means there's a chance if you don't recover your wreck, you're out those parts. And even if you do recover your wreck, there's a chance you don't get everything back. Did it start raining? Hold on. It did. It's raining out. Oh, that's cool. Hopefully things get cooler. But is chat working? Hold on. If you really want to mess with them, -8 to every roll with using stacked gear. The flat bonuses in Lancer don't go above 6 or below -6. That's a possibility, Nabiru. Do something like the system has trouble handling multiple features that do the same thing. Multiple of the same feature. So if you equip multiple of the same feature, your system is like impaired and you have a difficulty on everything you do. You still get the benefit of both, but you're impaired. I don't know if I want the debuff to be super debilitating though. Like, I probably, if I was going to do that, I'd say something like, you gain +1 difficulty to all the tax checks and saves for each duplicate piece of, for each duplicate feature you have equipped. So then if you have one duplicate feature, you've got one difficulty, which isn't, that's not overwhelming. It means things get harder and you can work around it, but it's still hefty. But then if you do multiple things, like if you wanted to stack deadly, if you wanted to stack deadly and gain multiple D6s on a crit, you would stack up difficulty so that way it would be harder and harder for you to crit. So it would kind of balance itself out. Whereas as I have it written now, if you gain deadly twice through two different features, because deadly is a template feature. I don't think any of the classes have deadly. Let me check something. Let me check. NPC features. Deadly. Oh no, the Avenger class has it. Okay. Pirate template, Ultra template, Veteran template. That's funny. The Avenger has it. So yeah, they could gain it from different sources and stack it. But yeah, that's what I've been cooking on. I need to find the time and a group of players that are interested. Hello, Jesus Mendoza. Yeah, I don't know. That kind of bugs me a little bit, Nabiru. Hello, Jesus. I was just talking about... You're right, no one likes hearing no, but it's almost patronizing to hear something that is effectively no, but it's like... but it's like, you can do it, it's just gonna suck when you do it. Sometimes I feel like I would just rather someone say no, that doesn't work, than say, you can do it, but you have to jump through this hoop, this hoop, this hoop, this hoop, and this hoop. If I was going to put a cost on it, I would. So, Jesus, I don't know if you're just getting here, but I was talking about a Lancer homebrew that I've been working on. You can do it, but you'll fall 8 levels behind. Yes. Are you familiar with Lancer, Jesus? I don't remember if you were one of the people who plays Lancer. You've played just about everything once? You get every system mixed up. I know that feeling, Jesus. So Lancer is a TTRPG where the players play as mech pilots. All right. So this supplement, so in Lancer, there is playing as a player character in Lancer can be overwhelming. Okay. The bots are here. The playing as a player in Lancer gets really complicated because you have so many options and combinations between the talents and the licenses and all the different frames and the things that you can choose from. And this homebrew supplement that I'm working on would be something that allows a player to, instead of doing that, the player would play as an NPC. They would use NPC features to build their mech, to build their character. And they would choose from a limited pool of things as to what to put on their machine. They do flat damage. There's some limitations on their actions. And it would be a very different flavor. And my idea here is that, so in Lancer, the player characters have licenses that give them the license to print out as many copies of whatever they have on their license, but it's restricted in that they can only be on one mech at a time. If a Lancer prints out a second mech, then the first mech just falls to pieces. Which means that Lancers can have, they have all this choice, but they can only have one mech at a time, right? And this character would be using more mass-produced parts that this character doesn't have a license to print their parts. They acquire their parts through scavenging on the battlefield, through getting stuff through arms dealers, through getting stuff from through arms dealers, through getting stuff from suppliers and all that jazz. And it just kind of changes a lot of the core things, but you also have the chance of losing parts. You have a chance of losing equipment too, which adds this extra layer of difficulty to it. So I don't know. I think yeah, something like that, Naber. Something like that. I gotta organize all of these thoughts and actually put it together in a readable supplement so I can try having it so it'll be easy to read and understand so I can pass it on to other people and use it. I have to get some people together for play testing. I want to play in a Lancer campaign, at least one Lancer session or game where I use these rules and other players use standard rules so that I can see how I feel. Like, do I feel like I'm keeping up? Like, I want to feel it myself. I want to get the reports from other people from games I run, but I also want to see like how people who aren't me would run a game with a character like this. I want to see how I would feel in the player seat, talk to other players about how they feel. The GM for me, not sure if it's, we want to try that at least. What's Mythic? Is it an AI of some sort? A GM emulator. Oh, I know what you're talking about now. That's the thing where you use dice rolls. That. Okay. all right, I saw someone do a single player campaign where they were running a single player adventure using Mythic, where they roll for different situations and Mythic would give them different endpoints and different like plot hooks, and they had to build the campaign. Ooh, that's so cool, Jesus. I might pick that up at some point. Is there a version of Mythic that's free? Is there a version that's available for free? Because I'm not in the best financial position. Okay. Kind of, except it predates AI by a long margin. The first version of Mythic came out in like the 90s? I know it's been around for a long time. And it's like, yes, like AI, but 100% less exploitation. Exactly. Okay. Let me look something up real quick. Just seeing something. Oh, there is. So that's on their second edition. I just looked up the stuff about Mythic. Yeah. Okay. I'll look into that. Okay. I don't think the creator of Mythic is going to get mad at me for getting a shared copy. I could have swore there was like a free version somewhere, but yeah. Oh, storyboarding? Pre-planning character interactions? Me? Thinking ahead? Planning out character arcs? Pfft, of course not. I would never. Apparently there's an app for it. People made apps for it. You still need the book? Okay. Also, it could be really good for like coming up with stories to like write about. Ah. But yeah, it is easier to just write the story. Yeah, it is. I see. I see on Amazon the 2021 revised edition's only like $10 at $11, which is nice. If I like it, I'll probably pick it up because I do like to pay authors. I do like to pay for stuff. Yeah. How do I just... Why did my... Yeah, that's what I was thinking about because I've heard about it before. I've heard about it before. If I like it and if it is something that I want to use, I'll probably buy a copy for myself because, like I said, I like to support, but I like to support authors. But excuse me. I remember I found this one free rule set online for using a thing like Mythic, except instead of creating random stuff for as a GM or semi-random stuff as a GM, it yeah, making it random in a controlled way. Yeah, that's what I've heard about it. I found this other thing for free that was like making NPCs, where it's like it gave you generic things for making NPCs, and I tried using it to make some NPCs, but I didn't fully understand it. It was like NPE or something. What was it? Yeah. Was it UNE? Yeah, I found some app version of this thing for Universal NPC Emulator. That's what I was thinking of. Hey, Oku-sen, welcome to stream. Welcome to stream. We're kind of in wind down mode. I just finished going through all the stuff I have planned. I have revised this thing about. I was talking tonight about the thing I talked to you about, where it was the rules for a player playing using NPC features instead of player features. And I've kind of spent a lot of time thinking about it, and I've outlined a lot of stuff. I even outlined some stuff tonight here to more clarify things. I need to like put it in something more formal than a text document, like actually try formatting. So like there are all of these templates for making Lancer and making Lancer NPCs or making Lancer frames and stuff on Discord. So I was like, surely there's gotta be some kind of a template for making a regular Lancer far field supplement, right? So I was like, let's go find that. And there is one, except it's not like a Google Doc or a PDF or an editable PDF or any of that stuff. It's a flippin', it is a template file to use with some kind of open source text editor called LaTeX. That gives you all of these macros and presets and preset fonts and things. So that way, if you want to make a document look like an official Lancer supplement, you can use all of these things. You just have to have the editor LaTeX. And I'm like, okay, cool. Learning a new word editor, sure, why not? I'm an aspiring author, why not? So I went to look up LaTeX, right? The word editor, and I come to find out, right? It is more of a platform than an actual thing. There's no program that just says, click here to download LaTeX. All of their stuff is done through, since it's completely open source, there's no like core program to download. You have to download other people's versions of the program that are interpreted for different things. So it's kind of like Linux in that you have to find different distributions, and different distributions will operate in different ways. So I go to the website about LaTeX. I go to like the thing where I think it said like downloads or something. Yeah, there's no core program to download. I have to track down a distribution of that program that I like, and they're like, you have to find it. You know, there's a wide variety of blah blah blah. I'm like, well, one, I've never heard of this thing before. And so I have no idea where to even start looking for distributions of it. And like trying to like make all of that work. Like what I wanted was just a Google Doc template with the fonts and the things so I could just copy and paste them where I needed them. And I could just use the fonts and the colorations and the symbols in a Google Doc. That was all I wanted. I didn't want to have to learn an entire new system setup for it. Like, why? But I also understand, as much as it bugs me, right? I also have to flip this on its head, and I have to understand someone put a lot, and I do mean a lot, of time and effort and love and blood and sweat and tears into making this template, right? So I respect the work. I respect the hustle. You're not wrong, Okusen. Which is really funny because this supplement takes certain core assumptions of the Lancer game and turns them on their head, right? The core assumption is that your character is a super talented mech pilot that's arms and legs above the rest, head and shoulders above the rest, and that you have spent the astronomical quantity of money to buy the license to print out as many of the stuff you want. It's just that you can't distribute it because as soon as you print out another one, or as soon as you try equipping it to a new mech, the first one falls apart, right? And this supplement works on a different assumption in which you are a regular pilot that has trained hard to be elevated above the rest in a heavily customized machine. And you cannot just print out new pieces. You cannot just print out new parts. You have to acquire the parts through other things, and like, because a core assumption of the supplement is that when you gain a feature, you have one of that feature that you can equip to one mech. And if you want to equip it onto a different mech, you have to take it off of the first mech. Like, printing new parts is not an option for you. And that kind of turns a lot of the core assumptions and the kind of fiction of Lancer on its head. Because so much of Lancer's fiction assumes this kind of like new age space communism of a world that lives essentially post scarcity in some places. And like, the supplement does reintroduce that scarcity. But one thing I leave open-ended in the supplement is that, like, whatever shape that takes can fit your campaign however you see fit. The general default assumption is that over the course of a full repair, the player can, through whatever means necessary, acquire or repair any destroyed systems or mechs. But there is the caveat that if the GM wants to, the GM can say you need to do a downtime action, or it's going to take you more than 8 hours to acquire the parts. Or some parts won't, or some features won't be accessible till you get to your next supply. Right? And like, I think this would be, I designed, I'll be honest, I designed a lot of the things for the supplement based on my own feelings and the stuff that I like to play and the stuff that I like to do, because I was designing it for myself, but I was trying to make it balanced and create it as something that not only I would like to use, but something that I would have fun running, where I would have fun having a player, one or more players in a party, use this and exploring this kind of dichotomy between these super talented, enhanced, amazing pilots that are these lancers and this regular Joe who's worked really hard to get to where he is. So it's a whole thing. But yeah, I did design it with that in mind. And I have some trepidation about sharing this more widely. I know, like, I need to find people to test with and find time to test it, right? But I know that, like, after I get more testing, I'm going to eventually need to release it to the wider audience, to the wider Lancer audience, be like, hey, this is a thing that I worked on. Can anyone give me any kind of feedback on it? Because I know that at least some of the feedback that people are going to give is, this breaks the game. This isn't Lancer anymore. Go play a different game. And all that jazz. So I already know that there's going to be at least some of that. But I'm hoping that when I share it, that I'll get some real feedback. Someone will say, maybe don't call it a bonus feature, call it something else. Maybe don't call it this, call it something else, or maybe introduce this, or tweak how you do the levels 3, 6, 9, and 12, or tweak this here, or change this there. That's what I'm really hoping to get. But yeah. Ooh. I have had a day. I spent so much of the day running around doing errands. And like, I'm in a really good spot. My bills are paid. But I have like less than $30 to my name for the month. But everything's paid. I mean, it was a thing where, like, I could have more money if I had waited to pay my phone bill till next month. I pay my phone bill every 6 months. So I could have waited another month, but then I would have just had to pay next month. And with my hearing this month, I don't know if I'm going to be even getting disability money next month. I'd rather just pay it now while I have money, if it can make sure that I'm going to have a phone into, you know, the cover, my phone bill covered for the rest of the year, the rest of 2024. Oh, you love that? Of the supplement and the ideology behind it? Okay. I think it would be interesting. Like, I would love, And I've changed it a lot since you last read it, Okusen. The big changes I've made since I showed this to you last was yeah, that's what I'm hoping for, Okusen. So what I've changed it, originally in my original draft of this, every time you gained a bonus feature level, you gained one new feature. So you gain one feature, your number of features you can equip goes up by 1. I've changed it since then to say that every time you gain a new feature, you gain... Sorry, not every time you gain a bonus feature level, a BFL, you gain ownership of 2 new features from NPC classes. So you gain 2 things, but I don't know if I told you about this already, but you can only equip one of them without having to unequip something. So it kind of preserves, because the thing is, a Lancer license gives you 2 things normally. So it preserves that choice of 2 things. You get 2 things, but you can only equip one of them without unequipping something. And then one other thing I introduced was for levels 3, 6, 9, and 12, where you would normally, as a player, get a core power. It works differently, where instead of gaining 2 features, you choose 1 new feature, but that new feature is chosen from an NPC template instead of a class. And the template features are generally stronger than the class features. They're generally stronger and like more powerful. And more versatile. They're usually more applicable in different situations. But you don't just gain that. You also, because the entire concept here, when I was rough drafting this, the entire concept here was that by the end, you will have a stable of mechs that you will be able to choose from in order to pick the right mech for the job, right? So, but I was like, in my first draft, the only way to gain new mechs was to spend downtime actions. Was to say, you have to spend a downtime action, you have to go through all of this extra stuff to gain new mechs. And the GM can put all of these restrictions on it and all of that. So I was like, if the entire goal here is that the player gets multiple new mechs, I shouldn't lock getting new mechs behind a downtime action. You can do that to gain more, but instead how it works is you gain ownership at 3, 6, 9, and 12. Not only do you get a template feature, you also gain a new mech. So you will gain 4 additional mechs. So assuming you don't lose any mechs, by the end of your career, you'll have 5 different mechs, which I think isn't a bad number. All the mechs come with their base features and 2 free optional features whenever you get them. And I introduced the thing here where you can, since you own those features, you can pry them off of the mech they come with and put them on a different mech. But a mech cannot launch unless it's battle ready. And it is not considered battle ready unless it, at the very least, has all of its base features. So if something happens and you lose one of those base features, you need to replace it, or the mech that you pulled it off of can't deploy. Which I thought was an interesting thing, because there's always the chance of losing them. And that's one of the things where I was like, I think this would be fun to play. But then I had to ask myself, like, with the cost that I've created, would it be fun to play if I go down if my mech gets destroyed, right? Because if the mech gets destroyed, it turns into a wreck. If we recover that wreck, then I can recover some or all of the features, and the mech itself will take time to be repaired, so on and so forth. The GM gets to say if I get all of the features or not. And the GM gets to say what I have to go through in order to get the mech repaired or replaced. But then on the flip side of that, right? Yes, you can make clocks for that. So then what happens if I'm in a mission, my mech goes down and I'm unable to recover the wreck? And then now I'm out all of those features that I've just been leveling up and gaining, and I have to go with my backup mech and all the features that I wasn't using for that mission. But then it also adds this thing of, if it's a dangerous mission, am I going to take my expensive template features that are super hard to replace? Or am I going to take the features that I'm okay with losing? The features that I know I can replace easily. On the off chance I have to abandon my mech. And this also introduced rules for salvaging parts, where it says a wreck, you can salvage some or all of the features from it. GM gets to decide what you get from a wreck, which is kind of for gaining stuff from enemies, but also for your own stuff. And it introduces a new risk that if a wreck takes any damage, it is destroyed and no parts can be recovered from it. So then if you want to recover parts from the wrecks that you take down, you got to make sure they don't get caught in your AoEs. But yes, Jesus, make clocks for it. If a mech gets destroyed, make a clock for getting the mech replaced. If you lose a feature, make a clock for replacing your stuff. Do some kind of a downtime action and all of that. It's like, but yeah, the question I ask myself is, would I enjoy it if I was playing it and all of a sudden I lost all that stuff and I had to go through so much stuff to replace it? Well, it kind of... Well, so the mech has no repairs. So it can't repair generally outside of a full repair. Unless you go through stuff to get spare parts, specifically for being able to get a free repair. And it also comes down to, as a player, right? Normally, in how Lancer is balanced, if I understand this properly, every player gets one downtime action between each combat. Normally, you have combat, you have downtime actions, you have some role play, narrative stuff happens, and then sets up for the next combat. Excuse me. That's normally how Lancer is supposed to work, right? So, like, if you're playing this, right, do you... You can't recover what you scratched. Well, it's just if wrecks take any damage. So if you destroy someone's mech and then you hit it again, then their mech is totaled, and there's just nothing to recover. Um, but then like, what was I saying? I was saying something. But yeah, it's a whole thing where it changes so much of the dynamic. And as a player, are you going to spend your downtime actions pursuing your own character ideals? Yes, like not being able to catch a fainted Pokemon. Oh my gosh. You're right, it is Pokemon. Are you going to spend your downtime actions working towards your whatever your objective is, or working towards whatever your character arc is? Are you going to spend your downtime actions gaining more parts to increase your power? Or are you going to spend your downtime action or you're going to spend it either working on your whatever your character arc is, or you're going to spend it gaining new features or new mechs to increase your overall power? Or are you going to spend your downtime action doing something to get spare parts to prepare for the next combat so you can have one repair? It introduces scarcity, and it introduces a lot of weight to player decisions. Because now that you have to think about, you can't just print out a replacement part. It's going to take time and effort to replace a part. So you're going to need to get the part from a dealer, whether legal or illegal. Though that can introduce some funny situations in which, like, your character is like in the middle of nowhere, and you're like, okay, so mechanically, I can replace my parts during a full repair, right? But narratively, where am I getting these parts from? Is there some arms dealer that we just meet in some secret, like, there's so many things you can do as a GM with that, right? You could say, okay, you meet a traveling arms dealer that you're able to make a deal with to get the parts that you need. Or something silly like that. Mm-hmm. But yes, Jesus, you are correct. I could. Oh, you got the Mythic app? It's really cool. Awesome. I'll have to take a look at that. Oh, the official one. Nice. Is it free or do you have to pay for it? Let me boot up my phone. Have parts teleported to you. Oh, it's $5? Okay. I don't think I'll get it at this point. Yeah. But yeah. I don't know. I think I have a lot of stuff nailed down here. And I think I have a good idea. But Have the parts teleported to you. Welcome to the traveling shop. Teleportation is a thing. Actually, in Lancer, teleportation is a thing. There are mechs that teleport. That's interesting, Jesus. Decide what cool thing you want to build next and use attacks to advance clocks instead. So like if you crit an attack, instead of doing bonus damage, you forward your clock on your invention. Something about that attack gives you an inspiration, or you figure something out about that attack that puts you closer to completing your project. Crits advance or regress clocks. Okay. You figured out how to overcome an obstacle. Okay. But yeah, I was talking to one of my friends about not just Lancer, but about RPGs, and she was saying that she feels like, how'd she put it? She feels like clocks are the greatest addition to TTRPGs since multi-sided dice, and I'm like, that's a big sentence. That's a big statement. And it took me a while to come around on clocks. I haven't used clocks a lot recently. I was using them for a lot of different things to like get a feel for them. But I think that clocks create a lot of like are a very simple representation of a lot of really complex ideas. XP is a resource. Oh, goodness. Being able to spend XP on things? Oh. That's spicy. That's real spicy. Alrighty. I need to learn Cypher. Okusen was telling me, I think it was, about Cypher. About like how cool it is and all the different options there are to it. And I'm like, it's on my list of things I want to get into. Because I've heard so much about it. Well, I haven't heard a whole lot. I've just heard that it's really good. think you mentioned Cypher before too, I think. It's on my list, and I will be sure to contact you, Jesus. But right now, my main focus is dealing with Lancer stuff. Just because I have a dedicated Lancer player group. I have multiple dedicated Lancer player groups. Oh, cool. So there's a good YouTube resource for it. That's great. Okay. All right. It looks like we're actually going to end at 3 hours tonight. It looks like. So yeah, this is my idea that I wanna tinker with and actually put together and hopefully release into the ether for people to play test and experience. Hopefully it allows somebody to have a fun experience as a gamer whenever it's done. I think that at some level that's the hope of every game designer. They hope that their game gives someone a special, memorable experience, you know? Alrighty. All right, so I was just clicking through Twitter to see if there's anything cool to talk about on there, right? Before wind down for the night. And I see, oh, there's a message, and it's like, oh, you have one message request. So it's a message from someone that doesn't follow me, and I don't follow them, right? And I'm like, oh, great, it's another thing. I open it up. It's an animator. They're like taking commissions, DM for collabs and inquiries, all that jazz, right? Hold on, I gotta snip this. Hold up. You gotta see this. I'm not even blurring out the person who said it because I'm pretty sure they're a bot or some kind of like a person trying to fish for commissions. So a person contacts me and they're like, "Hey, animator taking commissions, blah 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 blah." My name on there is Oriansenshi mech pilot VTuber doing creating stuff, right? They say, "Hi, mech." I almost want to just be like, "Who's mech?" Like, is this like a Gundam 00 Setsuna FC moment? Like, I am Gundam. Like, I will become Gundam. Have I ascended, chat? Have I become the mech? Oh my gosh. I'm deleting. Okay. It's funny to see Obari sharing stuff from Bang Bravern. Yeah, it makes sense, Nabiru. I just thought it was hilarious. Like, someone straight up just called me a mech. I'm like, I don't know how to feel about that. I don't know how to feel about that, chat. Someone just straight up called me a mech. I am not the mech. I pilot the mech. I dream I piloted the mech. Okay. Alright, let's switch over to the just chatting screen. And just chill for the last like 10 minutes. Alright. It was nice to take a little break from writing. I was a little bit like, I guess I was a little bit exhausted after stream. After being on stream for 4 hours. Okay. All right. Let's see if there's any cool memes. I don't see any cool memes, chat. Oh, that's cool. Is there like a specific setting for Cypher? Like, is it fantasy? Is it sci-fi? Or is it like setting agnostic? It's a generic system, but there's a setting book for most genre. Oh, that's cool. Okay. Just saw a funny meme. The post-apocalyptic setting book. Ooh, that's nice. If baseball really wanted to get exciting, they'd let a celebrity throw the last pitch. Bases loaded. Here's Danny DeVito. Banana ball. What's banana ball, Jesus? It's a more entertaining variety of baseball played by the bananas. They changed a few rules, like making walks actually super cool and making it so each inning gives a point, so there's never a super long blowout. Oh, okay. I'm sure there are some cool baseball animes. Hi, Tallulah. Well, I'm getting ready to end. Welcome to the stream. I'm streaming on both YouTube and Twitch, so if you hear me responding to people and you don't see their comments in the chat, Tallulah, then that I'm talking to the people on YouTube's. And if you look on the screen, the YouTube stuff's on the left and the Twitch stuff is on the right. Ace of Diamonds goes crazy. Is that a baseball anime, Jesus? Princess 9. Okay. Okay. It's about a high school freshman trying to become an ace pitcher. Okay. Okay. All right. Love how a lot of sports animes tended to just give self-explanatory names for the animes. Yeah, a lot of anime have really silly names. Okay. There's a blue lock, which could be about anything. Yeah, that could be. Alrighty. It's 1:30. It's come up to 3 hours. Ah. Is Cage the one about card game poetry thing? I think that started with a K. No. No. No, we don't talk about Keijo here. It was the Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of a parody of sports anime. I, it's like if a sports anime met a shonen battle anime met like a comedy sketch. Characters, like in a lot of sports anime, have like the special moves, and it gets super ridiculous. I didn't watch all of it. Yeah. There is literally a character who can use anyone's special attack. And it's called I think they called it like the Gates of Bootylon. Where it's a parody of Gilgamesh's Gates of Babylon attack. Yeah, the butt sumo one, Jesus. Yes. All right. I couldn't find any cool memes. I wanted to see if there's any cool memes to talk about, but there weren't any. And I wanted to talk about at least. You're so proud of that pun. Drop the weights like Rock Lee and hit someone with the primary lotus. The primary lotus. Oh my gosh. Alrighty. Alright, well. That's a wind down for tonight. It is been running for a little while. We've had a pretty good run. Alrighty. Actually, I'll let this ad run. There's a Twitch ad that's about to run, so I'll let that Twitch ad run, and then we'll do the outro. We had 3 hours. I wanted to hit at least 3 hours for tonight. We didn't get everything done. Originally I'd wanted to like get through the stuff really quickly in like the first hour or so, and then spend the rest of the stream trying to organize and sort everything on a Word document that I would then transfer to Google Docs. But we spent so long with like me getting distracted on the new player tips and on talking about different anecdotes and experiences and on talking about my week and my day and all that stuff, that like it just, by the time I wanted to like get into that stuff, it was just, I don't know. I was just like, you know what, we'll just go through, instead of trying to rush through everything else, we'll just talk about the different ideas and the expectations of this and kind of just talk through some ideas. Maybe after stream, I might work on putting it all down in like a Google Doc. Just so I can have something that I can share with other people. I don't know. I don't have anything planned for tomorrow. So tomorrow I might spend time just kind of like running some tests. If I can get a grasp on Mythic. It was fine, Jesus. It was nice to ramble. This was just a Just Chatting Zatsudan where we just kind of talk about stuff. Right? I talked about what I wanted to work on. And how I wanted to homebrew break Lancer. Wanted to break all the rules. I'm gonna laugh if like I finally get this supplement put together in a form that I can share with other people, and like I share it on like the Lancer Discord, and it like offend. I would laugh if I do that, and like if something ridiculous happens, like I offend their sensibility so much I get like kicked from the Discord or something ridiculous. I don't think they'd actually do that, but it would just be really funny. the people, as much as like sometimes people can be like a bit not judgmental, but a bit like pointed in their advice, I think everybody there means the best and wants to help each other. And they've helped me a lot with like, I developed some player mechs using Zoid's ideas and they gave me a lot of input because the people on there know so much about the Lancer player settings that like they can just tell so many balanced things about player things so easily that like it just they can just be like, this is, I remember I shared one thing and they're like, yo, this thing is literally eating, how they put it, it's eating this other feature's lunch and stole their kicks. Stole this other feature's kicks and is eating their lunch. All right. Let's wind down. Let's say goodnight. So oh, it didn't go all the way back. Let me see if I can go all the way back. Here. All right. And so, for those of you who don't know, I like to do a shout out to all the people who said anything in chat and to all the people to speak positivity and hope and joy into everyone's lives. I believe it's important for all of us to speak goodness, hope, and joy into each other's lives and to be there for each other. So, I will say to Noel Main, to Nabiru, to LeMay, to Vincent, to Hero Girls VT, to Jesus Mendoza, not to all the bots, and not to the trolls, to Okusen. Who else was here tonight? I think that was it. And to, on the Twitch side, where is the name on the Twitch side? Oh, there it is. Tallulah channel. And to anyone who watched this stream and didn't say anything in chat, and to anyone who watches this VOD afterwards, I would like to say to all of you that I love you very much. And I believe in each and every one of you. I think that you all are truly amazing and outstanding individuals. I believe that each one of you possesses a unique potential to make this world a better place. I believe that you all, you make this world a better place by living in it in your own unique way. I think that you are valid and important and worthy of love and deserving of happiness and good things. I believe that you, that your hopes and fears and concerns and dreams are valid and worthy of notice, and that you matter. That there are people in this world that love, I want you to know that there are people in this world that love you. If no one else does, I do. And I'm glad to see all of you here. I'm grateful to have all of you here, and it means the world to me. Always remember the Star Hunter motto: shoot for the stars, have wonderful adventures, live your dreams, and always stop to enjoy the memes. And one thing I do ask is that if you're watching the stream on YouTube, that you like the stream. It helps the algorithm with getting it out to other people. I really need to get better at asking people to do that mid-stream, because it helps with getting the stream recommended while I'm live, which brings in new people, which is really cool. Whenever they're not trolls. And to remember the motto: shoot for the stars, have wonderful adventures, live your dreams, always stop to enjoy the memes. I probably said that already, but it's always worth saying again. And If you have any friends or neighbors or aunts or uncles or relatives, co-workers, best friends, arch nemesis, arch rival, friends to lovers, lovers to enemies, star-crossed lovers, anyone you think might enjoy my content, feel free to show them my content or invite them to the next stream. Next stream is going to be Monday, 8:30 p.m. EST. And I can't wait to see all of you there. It'll be exciting to see you all. We'll probably go back to doing writing streams. Tonight I was just kind of worn out and I didn't have time to figure out what I wanted to do, and I don't think I was in the right headspace to do writing stuff tonight because I've been fuming over this Lancer stuff for a little while. Last thing, I know I talked a bit about the money situation that I'm in and the stuff that happens with my money earlier and like the bills I had to pay. I shared that not because I was looking for sympathy, but because I just wanted to talk about stuff that was going on in my life, because that's part of why I'm here. And I want you all to know that you don't have to donate to be here. You're not expected to give money to be a member of this community. I value each and every one of you, and I appreciate all of you. I'm grateful for your time, your attention, and your energy. But with that said, I am grateful to the people who have donated in the past and made things possible for me. There are people who have helped me do things that I could have never done on my own, and I'm grateful to each and every one of you for doing that. And I hope that other people will help me in the future, but, you know, because that would be great, but that's just part of the big unknown. If you ever feel motivated to donate to improve the stream, to improve my life, to help me out with any number of things, there are links where you can do that in the description on YouTube. On YouTube, there's links to Ko-fi and PayPal. If you're going to do a direct donation, I prefer you do PayPal. Ko-fi, you can do direct donation there. Or you can sign up for monthly donations, which sets up for regular donations. I don't have rewards for monthly donations right now. It's more of a matter of just doing monthly donations means that it's your way of telling me that you want to help me out. And on Twitch, on the donate button on my Twitch about page will take you to my Ko-fi, where you can do direct donations or repeat donations. Have yourselves a good night, everybody. Get that wave in. Let me see. Do I have people on Twitch watching? I have someone on Twitch watching. Let's see who's live that I can go raid on Twitch. Oh, is Sweets live? Might do Sweets. Sweets is doing some content warning. Oh, I haven't seen Naughty Roomba in forever. Let's do Naughty Roomba. How long is Naughty Roomba? Oh, Naughty Roomba's only been going for a little bit. Naughty Roomba's doing some Metal Gear Solid. Yeah, so I'm gonna raid over to Naughty Roomba for some Metal Gear Solid. Naughty Roomba is they, them, are their pronouns. Please respect that with Roomba. And one other thing, Roomba does use, I know my streams are normally family friendly. Roomba does use adult language, and Roomba's streams are generally expected to be 18 plus due to language and some of the content of the jokes. So it is intended. So yeah, that's just a warning. But let me set this up. Naughty Roomba. I always like to raid whatever one of my friends has the least amount of viewers. Good night, everybody.